Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone, this is going to be 5 Harry Potter cupcakes in one video. And what I've done is provided a time reference in the description box so you can just skip to the cupcake that you want to watch. You don't have to sit through the whole thing. First video in line is the sorting hat, and here we go with that one. To make the sorting hat, you're going to need some Kraft caramels. These are individually wrapped caramels. They come in other brand names other than Kraft, of course. Put them in the microwave for about 5 seconds to soften them up. Take 2 pieces and squish them together and just mold them until you get a nice smooth piece of caramel. And the heat of your hands will actually make it easier to mold as you work with this. And then continue to mold it into a hat shape, which is basically a cone shape. And then you just pinch the brim at the bottom. And for some details on the hat, I'm using a plastic spoon, the end of a plastic spoon to make eye shapes, and then the edge of the spoon bowl to make a mouth. And this is kind of like the sorting hat from the movies that had eyes and a mouth. And then continue to mold until you get something you're happy with. The sorting hat is kind of a beaten up old hat, so I tilted over the tip of the hat and I made the brim kind of crooked. And you can serve these just the way they are as little treats, or you could even put them on top of a cupcake, and that's what I've done here. I happen to have yellow frosting made, so I put it on a yellow frosted cupcake, but that's up to you. Next one is a golden snitch. These are wings that I drew out onto a piece of paper, and then I added a layer of waxed paper over top. To outline and fill in the wings, I'm using candy melting wafers. They come in different colors. These happen to be white. I purchased them at the Bulk Barn, which is a local bulk food store that's in Ontario and in other provinces of Canada. You can also purchase them at craft stores that sell candy making supplies like Michael's, or even certain Walmarts carry them. If you can't find them, you can use white chocolate for this. I melted these at 50% power right in the Ziploc bag. Once they were melted, I just cut a little hole in the corner of the bag. And now I did the outline, and then I'm filling in some feather shapes in the wings. And then I put them in the refrigerator to harden. Didn't take long, about 5 minutes. When they came out, I thought they were a little bit too thin, and I didn't like the holes that were left in them. So I'm adding another layer of feathers over top just to give them a more wing-like appearance and for them to be a little bit thicker. And I put them back in the refrigerator to harden for another 2-3 minutes. For the body of the snitch, I'm using a cupcake that's been iced with yellow frosting. The video tutorial for my frosting will be in the description box below. This is plain old buttercream that's been tinted with yellow. And I mounded it up on the top just to give it more of a ball shape because my cupcakes were kind of flat. Then, using a contrasting color of yellow, this is actually commercial frosting in a tube, I'm just adding some fancy filigree or lacy shapes on the top of it to give it a little bit of texture and trying to make it look like a little bit like the movie Snitches. And once that's done, you just simply push in the wings and your snitch is completed. Now onto Hedwig, the snowy owl. I'm starting off with the eyes. These are yellow candy melting wafers, and I'm using a little bit of that white candy melting wafer that I showed earlier just to make the eyelids. You could use white frosting for this, of course. And then I just let them harden. And I placed them on top of a cupcake that's been iced in white buttercream frosting. And then to make the feathers, I used a star tip, and I'm just piping on some of the feathers on the top of the head and at the bottom of the head. You could also use yellow frosting instead of the candy melting wafers if you'd like. And then some details on the eyes using black frosting, and then the beak using black frosting. Now for the scarf, spellbook, and wand cupcake, you're going to do the following. You're going to need some fruit roll-ups for the scarf. Fruit roll-ups are fruit candy that come in strips and are in a roll. And I'm just using a pair of clean kitchen scissors to cut the width and the length of candy that I needed. And then I'm cutting a little fringe on the end to make the ends of the scarf. And to make the stripes of the scarf, I'm just adding small pieces of yellow fruit roll-ups. They stick quite well together. If they won't stick, add just a tiny bit of water. And there is a completed scarf. Now for the wand, I'm using Tootsie Rolls, and these come in all sorts of different sizes. These are the little miniature ones. You can heat those in the microwave for 2 or 3 seconds to soften them, and then just mold a piece until you get a shape of a wand. And that's completed, one little wand. Now for the spell book, I'm using some Starburst candies. These are also moldable if you put them in the microwave for 2 to 3 seconds. Don't put them in for very long because they do melt quite quickly. So I made one into the inside of the book and one piece into the cover of the book. And then I just continued to mold it to make a book shape. I'm using the end of a steak knife to put some details inside the book and to also make some little ridges to make the page shapes on the edges. So there is the completed scarf. And then I'm going to drape it onto a cupcake. You can do this any way you like, of course. I'm adding the spell book and then the wand. Now, of course, you can do these in house colors. This happens to be Gryffindor with the gold and the red. Now on to Harry Potter. This is a cupcake that's been iced in white frosting, and I tinted the frosting with a little bit of Wilton gel paste color. I used copper, the copper color. And if you put just a tiny little bit, you get kind of a Caucasian skin tone. And then I'm using a toothpick to outline the shape of the glasses that I'm going to pipe on using some black frosting. The black frosting I'm using comes in a tube. I find that it's a lot easier to use the frosting in a tube when you're doing small details like this instead of making up a batch of it. So outlining the glasses. And I was going to leave the glasses blank, but then I decided at the last minute to add some eyes. So I added some green miniature M&Ms. I added a little red scar with white red frosting, and then a little red mouth, and then a little nose. And for Harry's messy black hair, I used a grass tip with black frosting and just added some hair details. I found this looked a lot like the Harry Potter puppet pals that you may have seen on YouTube. I also added some details to the eyes by adding just a little dab of black icing in the center. There's Harry Potter. Hedwig, which I find looks more like a sheep than an owl, actually. And the Snitch. The golden Snitch is actually my favorite out of all of these cupcakes that I made on that day. I think it turned out the best. It would look a lot better in a yellow cupcake with a yellow cupcake liner. There is the sorting hat, and then the wand, spellbook, and scarf. I think it would look better on a different color base frosting other than green. I tried it without the spellbook, and I thought that looked nice as well. And there's the whole gang all together. Of course, I will put the link in the description box to the websites where I found these ideas. Give them a try.